मैम प्रेरणा दी.
Did you get a chance to go through the case study with her?
No ma'am, मैंने उन्हें मैसेज किया but she was not able to reply me. तो फिर
Prerna is not well. She has informed me
Yes,
she is
ma'am.
not well. So maybe.
Prerna is not there. So let's start the class. I think. So this topic is really very important. I wanted everybody to be here, but what can be done if they're not there. This is the topic that we are going to cover this week. Going ahead, let's have a discussion. See, because this topic is once again very close to my heart. It's a very new topic. In the last 3-4 years, it has taken a different kind of shape altogether, especially amongst HR fraternity. HR fraternity has been doing a lot of things. A lot of things are being done by complete HR fraternity in terms of bringing the kind of results they want to see in diversity and inclusion. I really need to know from each one of you what is your point of view towards diversity and inclusion. What do you understand by this? During our lectures in last 1 month, we had spoken about this topic, I think 2-3 times already. So let's see. Let's hear from you. What do you understand? Let's divide these two terms into two different topics: diversity first, and then inclusion. So what do you understand by diversity first? Who wants to share? Let's start from Arya.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am, diversity, by diversity, I mean that different ethnic groups or people having different views, personality, religion, place, they are living together in a place. So that particularly depicts diversity, and inclusion means uh, I believe that if we take an example that there are different diverse people and we are making a team, so we have chosen different people from different fields, so that I think means inclusion. I mean inclusion of different diverse people. So that I mean by this topic.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Anybody else? Apurva?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, diversity, as correctly said by Arya, is the difference based on different aspects. And if we talk about diversity, so India is very related to diversity. India is famous for diversity, that we are so diverse. And in terms of business, if we talk about diversity, so we have a lot. And again, if we utilize the diversity, if we give chances to people and we include them, then that's what is inclusion. Even if we talk about inclusion, ma'am, so there is different kinds of development, like economic development and all of it, but there is a development called inclusive development, which is also there. And that is basically you are involving each one of us, like you are not just providing people the benefits, rather you are building them to earn their own benefits. So that is called basically inclusion, that including people in every making them participate in every aspect, be it be business or even during their personal life, getting involved in different things to achieve whatever they want. So yes, even inclusion enhances people's, once people start feel included in any particular work, their confidence also increases. So overall development happens when inclusion is given more importance.
Right. Devika? What is your thoughts on diversity and inclusion?
Diversity is difference between people coming from different backgrounds, different castes, religions, or uh, lifestyle. And is inclusion means feeling included, not extra, and they should feel belonging to the same group.
Okay. So let me change the question now. I know 15 is left. We have still almost everything we have spoken about. So let me ask you this question. In your lifetime so far, have you ever faced that you were not really included into something where you really wanted to? Any such example? Because of any stereotype, any bias, anything related to our demographics, geographical, changing in the status, because of any reason, anything that has happened to you, or you have seen happening to somebody else.
Ma'am, I think the most like prominent example we can say these see is the interstate thing. Like people have like the Mumbaikars, Delhi people. So they have like you can take an example like if someone is getting a job in different states, so they are thinking that these people have come to snatch our things. Like if you take the example of Mumbaikars and these Delhi people, so these are very common examples of diversity or the feeling of exclusion which people face. So I think this is
Hmm.
what I have seen very common.
Very good example.
Yes, ma'am. Also, Biharis, they are most stereotyped, and they're always, deprived of what the opportunities. They are always seen as very, as not that much maybe eligible or that much competent because of their accent, or there are many other reasons as well. But they're always, even in metropolitan cities like Mumbai. I was going through a report, like there were many Biharis killed, even beaten sometimes, just because they were Biharis, not other sects, like not other people who were coming from other states, but just the Biharis. So I guess they have faced the most stereotype. And even the north people from northeastern states, in, you can say, in Bollywood, or yes, yes, ma'am.
Very true. Yeah. They are not really included into any. Any such examples, Garvita and Trupti? You have something to say? Share.
Ma'am, difference between introverts and extroverts count.
That is also included, right? Why not? Usually, that is also seen. People who are introverts or shy are really not included in many places. True. Yeah. So you understand now. See, mota difference, whatever happens between diversity and inclusion, you all understand that particular way. Now, when we take these things into organization, somewhere it has the same shadow which is going on in the society. Somewhere we, because we being human beings, we carry it forward to the organizations where we work. So sometimes we have these notions that we will not want to work with somebody, we will not be invited, we will not have that person in our group. So even if an organization at large has this kind of a policy that equal employment opportunity is open, that means the organization is open to have any kind of people, no matter what caste, what creed, what kind of background, nothing matters. Only the skill matters, that is important. But can this be taken care of the people who are involved into the process of including them on a day-to-day basis? Can you actually change the biases? Can you actually remove these stereotypes like the Ariwala thing that we're talking about? Can we really do that in the organization? So we are going to talk about it. That what are the problems which is being shared which is being going on for so long in the organizations because of these biases, stereotypes, and prejudices. And then how can we remove these things from our mindset? Though it is going to take a lot of time, but still, since last 5 6 years, because all the organizations are becoming more open, more adaptive, they are actually talking about inclusiveness. Not many, but yeah, at least even if few organizations start talking about these things, start talking about big changes that they are incorporating in their organization, that means some change has started happening. So that dent in the entire system has been created. And going forward, there are going to be a lot of things that can be brought into this entire space. And this is how we are going to make changes in the society as well as in the organizations. So today, the summary of topics that we are going to cover is basically the definition of diversity, the norms, understanding of workplace inclusion, difference between the two, what can companies do to promote D&I culture more, and what are the best practices which are already there and adopted by many organizations. So now, J.K. Rowling has written this particular quote. That's why I included this in this particular slide. That indifference and neglect often do much more damage than outright dislike. If you say somebody that I hate you, that person will still be able to manage it because you are saying it openly on the face. That's fine. But when we do indifference or when we ignore or when we put somebody into a neglecting mode, that means we are creating even more harm than we do it. And this is what a diversity and inclusion is being done. I'll tell you one example which came to our group today. One of the mothers, we do a lot of meditations for these mothers. So then one of the mothers shared that she was there, she had a child who has this mental problem called ADHD. So she had gone to a club where she's a member of, and she had taken the son to swimming classes basically. So while swimming, this boy, what he did was, because ADHD people generally are very hyperactive, all the children, they have ADHD. The hyperactive means they are really, really very funny. They always want to do some or the other kind of thing. So energy is really high. So what this 9-year-old child did was, he just had some water in his mouth and he blew it out on somebody else, some other child. Now this other child started crying. And she created a whole lot of nuisance that this boy has put the bottom on me and all that. The child was okay, but then her mother also started creating a scene. And when the manager of the club was called, he said that I will not let you and your child ever enter in the swimming pool. So that ADHD boy. And he was shouting, screaming on the top of his voice. So these are few examples in our day-to-day lives, which actually show that this as a society, as people living together, we are not aware about certain things, and hence we behave in certain manner that is very same thing, which is written there, which is very neglecting to somebody, which is very idiotic to somebody, and that is not their problem. I mean, if you happen to meet somebody, maybe an autistic child or maybe a child who has a mental imbalance or something like that, without awareness, even we are going to behave in certain manner. What what diversity and inclusion says that every organization or every society should have that much of patience, that much of adaptation, so that they can embrace anybody. Everybody should get an equal right to live their life the way they want to live. Very simple. And that is what we were trying to bring in the organization, because in India, still now, not many organizations may have this kind of problems. Earlier, it was purely between male and female. The gap is still very huge. Even now, most of the women who are even at the leadership places or at middle management places are still not being paid at par with the male members. There is some amount of pay parity, pay gap is still there. Even though the qualification is same, number of years of experience is same, the number of hours you put is also same, still that gap exists. Right? We don't know what is that problem that is there. Maybe because women has taken some breaks in between for maternity and marriages, that can be a reason, or maybe some other reasons which goes into. So this thing is
Ma'am,
a problem. Yeah.
ma'am, I had a question. Ma'am, like 90% of India's sector is unorganized sector, like where women are working. Like 90, if we talk about the women and men, so 95% of women work in unorganized sector. Only the 5% are in government job where they get 2 years of maternity leave. But in the unorganized sectors, they don't get. So is it a genuine reason to say that ki just because they are going on maternity leave? Also, you were talking means the gap is of 19%. Like women are paid 19% less than women. Sorry, men. So why so?
Yeah. That's so. So we are just talking about men and women. Now there are so many other people also who are not there. They don't even exist in organizations. For example, we talk about LGBTQ. Very hardly they get job. Most of the organizations are not open to have these people internally and come and work with them purely because the organizations are not ready to adapt to the system right now. Similarly, then we come to the disablement sector. So 2 to 3% of the people in India are disabled. And I don't know, it should be more than 2 to 3%, but make it 2-3% of the total population. Still, we don't see these people in normal school, colleges with us. We don't see them in the corporates or in the office working with us, purely because there is some kind of bias. There are no equal opportunities for them that is available for us. So, like, I asked you this question: if you have ever faced any such bias or prejudices, you hardly had anything to talk about, right? Now, put some other person, you take up their shoes, you wear their shoes, and see from their perspective. If you would have been disabled, or if you would have been in LGBTQ, or you would have been, in a place where you were maybe fat, maybe dark, with whatever kind of biases goes on into the society, would you still be able to get the equal opportunity or not to work in India? That is what diversity talks about. Diversity clearly states that every workplace should have a right amount of composition, that composition should exist from different groups. So that people from different kind of areas, people from different places, regions, caste, creed, they can come together and they can work in a place together. डाइवर्सिटी तक तो सब ठीक रहता है बट द मोमेंट वी टॉक अबाउट इंक्लूजन दैट्स व्हेन द प्रॉब्लम कम्स सो वी विल कम टू इंक्लूजन लेटर let's talk about what kind of diversity is there. There are different kind of diversity that we talk about. It's on race. Race is generally, black people, Dalit, और ये सब चीज के बारे में बातें की जाती हैं आजकल. Minorities, majorities, all that. Gender, we know clearly, male, men, women, and other gender. Ethnicity is from which background you come from, your age, physical abilities, your language, the culture that you belong to, the religions that we follow, veteran status. Veteran status usually is basically talks about the people coming from defense background. So people who have taken retirement from defense, so army, Air Force. Then sexual orientation. Sexual orientation again talks about LGBTQ, whether you're transgender, you have other preferences, you are gay or lesbians. Then education, what kind of qualification do you have? Hindi medium or English medium, that's where the major problem starts coming in India. Nationality, whether you are Indian or Pakistani or Nepali, all these things. So we have that biases against Nepali will only वो बनेगी चौकीदार बनेगी या घर का खाना बनाएगी ना these kind of biases still exist in our mind. पाकिस्तानी है तो अच्छा काम नहीं करेगा अफगानी है तो something like that. So various nationality we have different kind of biases attached with that. Now inclusive workforce basically talks about things combined together. This is how we can bring it. So inclusive workforce means where you are not really bothered about the gender. You're not bothered about the education, the military services, thinking your personality types, their languages they speak, the race they come from, background and industry experience they have, their family status, their disability they have or they do not have, their sexual orientation or LGBT, office location, yeah, ethnicity, their cultural or country. So inclusion means that you don't have to think any of these. There are few companies who have started taking such kind of interview where they call it blind interview. So blind interview in the sense that they do not really go to see the person. They do not get to know anything about these things about the person, neither the age, nor their background, nor their language, anything, nothing at all. Only the education, the skill and competency, and the work this person has done in the community. That's all they talk about, and that's how they have to judge or finalize the person, that whether this person is really suitable for their company or not. And these blind interviews are actually really, really very helpful in terms of when we have biases. It really helps us identify those biases and remove them from us. Now, what is workplace inclusion? What is the definition of that basically? The definition says that workplace inclusion is a term that refers to workplace where people with varying characteristics are included in the company culture. Varying characteristics can be anything from the past to pictures that have just shown. An inclusive workplace welcomes and supports employees who vary in characteristics such as age, gender, ethnicity, language, physical ability, culture, religion, education, social orientation, etc. Right? Understood well? Any questions so far? Tipsy?
Ma'am, what is sexual orientation?
Sexual orientation is the same thing that we talked about, that people are heterosexual, जैसे generally होते हैं हम कि men are attracted to women and women are attracted to men. Then some people are homosexuals, which are either called gays or lesbians. So वो sexual orientation है. फिर थर्ड तरीके के होते हैं ट्रांसजेंडर, जो पैदा सपोज मान लेते हैं कि आई एम अ वुमेन, the body of mine is a woman's body, but might be I think like a man. I want to really work like a man. I want to really look like a man. So these are transgenders. So similarly, there are so many other orientations which exist. The problem is हम लोग उस चीज से exist करने के लिए मना करते हैं सबसे पहली चीज तो. I was just watching a small movie somebody had shared, and this picture really beautifully talks about a son coming out and telling her mom कि I am a gay. So उसकी mom कहती है कि let's go to the hospital. First I'll have to book an appointment with neurologist. I want to show you to that neurologist की देखने के लिए कि what is wrong with your brain. Why do you think that you are? So people are not aware that these are our normal choices. जैसे हम heterosexual normally हो सकते हैं, वैसे हम homosexual भी normally हो सकते हैं. And it is nothing new. If you read about our Vedas, हमारे Upanishads, Mahabharata, everywhere all these people have existed. And deliberately, उन सबका नाम इसके अंदर इसीलिए आया. शिखंडी was very major example, जिसका नाम बार बार आता था. जानबूझकर उसके बारे में इतनी बात करी गई है पूरे महाभारत में. He was highlighted purely because of this sexual orientation. So when our Vedas are talking about it, our ancient history is talking about it. So I don't know why people feel that it's something new, which is there. It has been existing. Yeah.
Also, some people say that it's a Western disease which has come over it
Yeah.
in India. I mean, they don't know that first time Kama Sutra was the book about in which it was all talked about, and it was from India only. But people don't know.
And Janta Loha is basically a big example of how there are so many movies which are there, which shows and depicts the between two female and two male and people doing sexual things in groups. So all these things have happened in past. I mean in ancient past. कितने सालों पहले की बात कर रहे हैं, 2,000-3,000 years ago. And still we were so open at that point in time. I don't know, suddenly what is happening to us that we are becoming even more aggressive. Instead of making our child know more about these things, we are just trying to shut them down. These are the meanings of these both the statements, I mean both the words. Diversity का meaning and what it does in the organization, inclusion and what it does in the organization. So I want you to read it and ask me questions if you have it. So any one of you can read it. Why you want to do diversity? You do diversity. Then Arya, you can do inclusion.
Diversity is about differences. Inclusion is about embracing those differences. What each do? Diversity is often used in the context of hiring diverse employees. But what do you do once you get people who are different into your company? It is not enough just to give diverse groups a seat at the table. You should also give them a voice and listen to them. Arya, you have to do the inclusion.
Inclusion is the deliberate action aimed at creating a workplace culture where all differences are welcomed, accepted, and appreciated.
Right? So now do you get the difference between the two? Diversity is knowing, becoming aware that people are different. Inclusion is removing all the biases against them and accepting them without having any such problems in the brain, in our mind. Now, what are the benefits if we have diversity and inclusion? Really useful in the organization if we do it in a proper manner. If we include people in a right manner without thinking whether they do not have a skill or not. Sorry, whether they come from what background or not. The only thing that we should be looking at again is matching their skills with the job description that's there. That's it. So what are the benefits that we do when we do diversity and inclusion in the right way? Number one is it increases creativity. It really helps in increase creativity. There are people who are from different kind of cultural background. There are people who have been, they have seen these problems since very start. So their mind works in a different manner altogether. For example, because we have not gone through such kind of biases ever in our life, so we don't know what kind of creativity, what kind of solution can be brought to it. So these people somehow become very, very solution oriented because they have seen the problems right from the age when they were maybe 5 or 6 years of age. Since they got to know that they are deliberately different from other people. Whether we are not talking just about LGBTQ or disabled people, it can be about anybody. Even in Western countries, black people, that race which comes from them, Africa, South African, these people clearly face that kind of a problem. Even in India, हम लोग खुद इतने brown होते हैं, still we give them that kind of looks कि कितना ज़्यादा काला आ गया. So all these things come from that particular mindset that we don't know anything about that, neither their ethnicity, we don't know their cultural background, how their upbringing has been. These people become very, very creative since the very start because they start facing these kind of challenges at very early stages in their life. Then after a second, variety of different perspectives. Now it's something related to what I just said. People getting upbringing, coming from different region altogether, from different countries putting together, different kind of backgrounds coming together, always bring different perspectives to solution for bringing a solution to the problem in the world. It's always good to have a diverse workforce so that different kind of things can be discussed about and then taken decisions. Then higher innovation. Again, related to creativity, where there would be creativity, there are chances the innovation would be high. Also, when people come from a background where they have seen problems and challenges at very early in their life, there are chances that they become very innovative in coming with the solutions. So then these people will have. जिसे हम इंडिया में जुगाड़ कहते हैं. So now you go to smaller villages. People have actually created something really, really, really brilliant. Even if shoe box को mobile charger रखने की जगह बना के उसका इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. So this is जुगाड़, and as well as it is innovation also because nobody has thought about these kind of solutions. Then faster problem solving. Again, similar kind of a point that because they people face problems, so they become very, very good at problem solving. They analyze the situation in such a manner that they are really automatically inclined to get the problems, the solutions faster. Then better decision making. If you have different kind of workspace, workforce altogether, that means there are chances that you are going to have better decision making power within that group. Profits will obviously increase because you have a better workforce at place. You have hired your workforce purely on the basis of the merit and the skill set that they bring to you. Higher employee engagement because obviously when people are of different backgrounds, people are from different kind of ethnicity, they come together and the way they are engaged in their work is much more higher than the normal male and female coming together. Reduced employee turnover because if you hire from different kind of backgrounds, अगर आप suppose office बना रहे हो अपना लंदन में and you are taking all the people from India to London, it's going to be very, very high cost. As well as there are chances that people might leave because they have to take the transfer, they don't want to shift, relocate करना पड़ेगा, बहुत सारी चीजें करनी पड़ेगी. So it's always better to have people who are already there working, and it would be much more easier. उसमें फिर आपका एम्प्लॉय टर्नओवर भी कम हो जाता है because these people are staying there and it's easy. So लंदन और इंडिया के एग्जाम्पल थोड़ा एक्सट्रीम में हो गया. अब इंडिया के अंदर ही ऐसा होता है, आपको छोटी छोटी सिटीज में ऑफिसेस खोल रहे हैं. People come, smaller cities, smaller states have started opening up lot of manufacturing units at very less rates क्योंकि उनके पास लेबर बहुत रहती है. For example, Rudrapur started 10 years back. They started giving up, calling all the organization to come and open your manufacturing plant. The labor, electricity rate, all these things would be much lesser, and that's why Rudrapur became a very, very suddenly, it became a very good state in terms of bringing that work. Similarly, Haridwar. People used to know Haridwar only as a city where people used to go for holy purposes. But then when government started opening all the centers, calling all the manufacturing units, they opened up different kind of things together. The labor were given job. क्योंकि कितना standard of living in place like Haridwar is much, much lesser than what it would be in Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai, Bangalore, all those places. So obviously, if you have your manufacturing plant, that means the cost of the product would be also less. And people who are joining the industry there itself, you just have to give them a little bit training, and then they will be open to work. That means the employee turnover would be very reduced. So it's always better to hire people looking into कि कहाँ हम अपना ऑफिस खोलते हैं, कौन से geographical state में, वहीं से हम direct लोगों को hire करते हैं. Then better company reputation. So diversity and inclusion always talks about globally. A lot of things are happening in this space, and hence it automatically brings good reputation to the company if you are open to have people coming to you and work for you. And last is improving hiring results. So जो आपको normal men or women में नहीं मिलता है, so why not go out and look for other places? You can have people who are disabled, but they are really good at the skill that you're looking for. You might have people who are transgenders, but who are really good at what you're looking for. So you have to open up the chances of getting the right kind of employee with the right skill in your organization without thinking about all those things that we talk about in the diverse list of diversity. So this is some percentages that shows that Glassdoor is basically a similar kind of platform like we have Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. So Glassdoor generally talks about employee coming there and sharing their what do you call it, opinion about any organization. The opinions can be anything, either bad or good. So now Glassdoor says that 67% of job seekers jobs they said a diverse workforce is important when considering job offers. So it is people's opinion that the organization should have to become a little more open now. Then Josh Bersin Research. Josh Bersin again is a company which basically does a lot of surveys. They collect data from various organizations and conduct those surveys and do researches in that. It shows that inclusive companies are 1.7 times more likely to be the innovative leaders in their market. Similar survey companies, BCG. BCG also does a similar kind of thing. They do yearly surveys, salary surveys, pay surveys, what kind of people needs to be hired, best practices surveys. And that's when they said that 19% people, I mean, they say that companies that have more diverse management teams have 19% higher revenue than the people who do not have it. Then McKinsey is also similar company. They also said the same thing, that racially and ethnically diverse companies outperform industry norms by 35%. So that means all these larger companies have collected so much of data from the companies who are performing equal opportunity in firms. And when you really do it, that means you are really open to have any kind of people who are working with you and not just inviting them to work with you. That means you are really inclusive. And that's when you can become innovation leader better than any other company. That's when you can have higher revenue and that's why you can perform really better than any other industry in the market, right? So these are two different practices which is generally practiced in the organization. One is hire for diversity, so increase incidents and best practices that you can do, and then create systems. So your system should talk about welcoming diversity and inclusion also. Now there can be so many examples of this. Right? Many examples which we have seen in the entire lifetime of mine working in different corporates. So there is one particular example where we hired somebody, and this person we hired purely on a remote basis. We didn't meet this person. And this person said there is some disability in his legs. We hired this person, he was asked to come and join the office, and somehow everybody forgot that he has a disability. The day he came to the office, he came on a wheelchair. He did not have a ramp for the wheelchair in the office. It was not there, nowhere. He had stairs and good 10, 11 stairs. So everybody forgot. Now this person has come, he's standing on the gate with two guards, and now he wants to come inside the organization, but there is no way there. So these kind of examples have created such a ruckus, because imagine the kind of humiliation you will go through to the have in life. If you have hired somebody, you had 1 month of notice when this person is going to join, and everybody forgot about this, me included. I was also there, I was also leading in charge, and completely forgot that we do not have simple basic thing. Nobody asked him whether he will come in a wheelchair or not. Thankfully, he had his crutches, so he could be associated. I mean, he was helped by the guards. He used his crutches and he could be entered. But otherwise, it was such a big humiliation. So that lesson was learned practically. That we have to become much more open, not in just terms of talking that we are bringing somebody, but also getting things ready, people ready, sensitivity ready, opening up the infrastructure, creating that kind of spaces for people. So all these things have to be done in a proper manner. Similar things happens for transgenders and other people, other genders that we generally call the third gender. They do not use. I got to learn it from various people that they don't use the normal toilets that a woman or a male would use. There has to be a different kind of setup arrangement for them. When you are hiring them in the organization, and if you do not have a basic facility of loo or washroom that we call, then obviously you cannot have the inclusion properly done in the right manner. These are the few examples that is there, which talks about that. And I think there was one very beautiful. I don't know whether you were really small at that point in time. There was this program which Amir Khan used to do, Satyamev Jayate.
Yes, ma'am. I used to see.
So he did one episode purely on this thing where he talked about transgender, he talked about disabled, he talked about diversity and inclusion all over the workplace. कि हमारे गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसेज में या गवर्नमेंट बैंक्स के अंदर भी inclusive there's नहीं है where we can invite these people and they can come and get their work done on their own. They always need some or the other assistance because हमारा infrastructure इतना poorly done. Reason is if you go to outside India, at least for these two categories, LGBTQ and disabled people, they are much more learning. They are much more aware. Their infrastructure is almost automatically ready for the other people. अगर कहीं पर कुछ लिखा हुआ है पब्लिक प्लेसेस में तो वहाँ ब्रेल में भी लिखा होगा सो दैट इफ यू आर विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड या ब्लाइंड है तो आप उसको ब्रेल से पढ़ सकते हैं. So everything is available for them, even in their metro services, so whatever tube services they have outside India, even they have. कहाँ जा रही है उसका भी वो ब्रेल से पता कर सकते हैं और they can listen where things are going. I mean, the train is going in which direction, which train they have to catch. So it's very simpler for them as compared to what we have in India. And imagine looking at such a vast, high population country, 1.4 million now. We do not have basic infrastructure ready. अभी तो हम corporates की बात कर रहे हैं. If we talk about schools, nothing is there. We don't even think about it. Colleges again same thing. Universities and colleges. अब modern universities जो बन रही हैं, they are still a little bit open for inclusion, but the older ones are not. So you have to think from this perspective कि हर जगह हम आप बच्चे को assist नहीं कर सकते, right? So most parents do not send their children to normal schools purely because कि उनको पता है कि हमारे बच्चे में कुछ problem I mean कुछ different है बाकी बच्चों से, and he or she needs assistance all the time because हमारा infrastructure है. So that is they will come and assist all the time, and which is not possible. Not every mother, not every father is free, or they cannot hire a maid or servant to assist their children. So major उनके पास क्या रास्ता रह जाता है कि let's not send the children. कहीं और पढ़ा देते हैं, स्पेशल स्कूल्स भेज देते हैं, कुछ भी कर देते हैं. Now again, अब स्पेशल स्कूल्स की बात करते हैं इंडिया में, तो स्पेशल स्कूल्स आर नॉट रियली दैट qualified or equipped to give that kind of qualifications to people, even now. And that is why you will see very less people. अब आप किसी कोई विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड है जिसकी आंखें नहीं है, आप उसको आराम से देख लोगे कि वो कहीं भीख मांग रहा है या कहीं घूम रहा है रास्ते में, किसी तरीके का भी काम करके छोटा मोटा काम करके अपना पैसा कमाता है. But you will not see somebody actually sitting in an office and leading a company. There are very few. And there was this person who actually did that. He was refused admission in IIT. He got admitted. He was the topper of his class. He was refused IIT. इसने मना कर दिया. उसने clear भी कर दिया. He was visually impaired. 98% he could not see. MIT ने उसे invite किया. He went there. MIT में education पूरी करके आया. He came back to India. He started his own company. Now his company is 2,000 crore good company, and every employee he has some or the other disability. So imagine such people who have seen this kind of disadvantage or these kind of problems are providing solutions also to those problems. And IIT invited him to have a good lecture on how he has built up his company. Then they apologized that we did not give him the opportunity. So such beautiful things can also happen, but the examples of such stature is very less. Because हो सकता है उसके पास पढ़ाई करने के लिए पैसे हों, उसके पेरेंट्स के पास, they would have been equipped. But imagine people who are not equipped. अभी तो हम डिसेबिलिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, LGBT की बात कर रहे हैं. अब अगर वो ये प्रॉब्लम्स भी हैं उनके साथ और उसके ऊपर वो पुअर भी है, so that means double the problem. They do not have the means, they do not have the money, they do not have things to buy or provide them the special education, and that means even more problematic things. And that is the reason, what is the end result? In corporates, we do not have much percentage of these people available to work. और बेसिक अगर हम आते हैं वुमेन एंड मेन पे, जो हमारा बेसिक जेंडर डिफरेंशिएशन चलता है मेजर डाइवर्सिटी में, if you speak to normal people about diversity, they will always talk about women and men issues. अब men and women issues भी बहुत है, but there is a huge list of that also. First is the sexual orientation, the sexual harassment that happens. वैसे ही इतना होता है नॉर्मल, अगर आप कभी किसी पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट पे चले जाओ या आप सड़क पे चले जाओ, दिस पिंचिंग, ग्रोपिंग, हैंड टचिंग, ऑल दिस थिंग्स इज अ नॉर्मल थिंग फॉर अस लेडीज, राइट? वी हैव ऑल फेस्ड दैट, वी हैव ऑल सीन दैट. नाउ इमेजिन there are people who wants to go every day to work using public transport, so that means उनको ये harassment, उनको ये humiliation, उनको ये problems हर रोज फेस करनी पड़ती every day. It's a part of their life, and they cannot do anything. If somebody is there, existing in their organization, और वो घर में गरीब है, खुद प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं सब कुछ, so that means इनके पास कोई चारा नहीं होता. They have to work. And वर्क भी करना है, harassment भी झेलना है, humiliation भी झेलना है, और शिकायत भी नहीं कर सकते. So such kind of troubles women are facing, and then they are working. And that is the reason why most of the women who are already working, they prefer to work in an unorganized sector, क्योंकि एक तो बचपन में उनका एजुकेशन नहीं लिया, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. एजुकेशन देने के बाद भी, just imagine the kind of system that we have. Every year you see the results. Last 30 years से देखते चले आ रहे हैं. ज़्यादा हो गया, I was young that time, but last 25 years मोटा I am looking at it, right? Since we started 10th to 12th, we passed our 10th to 12th. Every year, 10th का result और 12th का result में women are the ones who outrate the men, right? Boys को हमेशा कहते हैं, right? Women are better percentage, have better better percentage in terms of overall average also. अब IIT के अंदर एडमिशन अगर मिल रहा है या MBBS में मिल रहा है, so most of these people are male. Even IAS officer you will see there are no women. तो वुमेन कहाँ चली गए जो 12th तक और इतनी ज़्यादा अच्छी एजुकेशन में थी, they were really brilliant, they were outrageous boys, कहाँ चले गए थे? तो उनके पेरेंट्स ने डिसाइड किया उनके लिए कि उनको घर से बाहर ज़्यादा दूर नहीं भेजना है, so they have been asked to study in the local college. अब जरूरी नहीं है कि लोकल कॉलेजेस कैन बी IITs और बेटर इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेजेस और मेडिकल कॉलेजेस, तो उन्होंने छोड़ दिया अपना वो ड्रीम कि इंजीनियरिंग नहीं बनाना क्योंकि वो मेल्स का कहते हैं, मेजर फैमिलीज थिंक लाइक दैट. डॉक्टर नहीं बनाना बिकॉज लंबे आवर्स लगेंगे उसके अंदर, तो शादी नहीं होगी, डॉक्टर नहीं बनाना. IAS ऑफिसर इसलिए नहीं बनाना है क्योंकि टाइम ज्यादा लगेगा IAS बनने में, शादी की एज हो जाएगी, सो दैट्स नॉट. So now what happened with these brilliant girls that we have in India? They were forced to study in smaller colleges. वहाँ पढ़े, जो भी किया उन्होंने अपनी लाइफ में, but they were not able to reach to the stage where the men were easily able to. जबकि प्रिविलेज किसको मिलनी चाहिए थी? उनको जिन्होंने अच्छी परसेंटेज से पास किया. बट प्रिविलेज ऑटोमेटिकली किसको मिली? पेट्रियार्की सिस्टम को लेकर मेल मेंबर. And this is what happens. अब ये तो हमने डिफरेंस की बात करी जहाँ पर पढ़ रही है लोग. Now there are places where women are not, I mean the girls are not studying at all. 5th क्लास के बाद जहाँ उनके पीरियड स्टार्ट होते हैं उनको स्कूल्स भेजना ही बंद होता है. क्यों? क्योंकि उन स्कूल्स के अंदर प्रॉपर टॉयलेट फैसिलिटी नहीं है. So when their period starts, they cannot use the toilet facility properly. Hence, parents decide that let them not go to the schools only. चाहे वो प्रॉब्लम महीने में 5 दिन आनी है, स्टिल दे वोंट सेंड द, दे स्टॉप सेंडिंग देम. तो आधी जनता हमारी नहीं खत्म हो गई जो ये 5th क्लास तक पढ़ी है. थोड़ी बहुत पेरेंट्स ने जहाँ हिम्मत दिखाई आगे पढ़ाया, तो हमने उनको 12th में खत्म कर दिया. 12th के बाद जो थोड़े बहुत पेरेंट्स हैं वो पहुंचे आगे, वहाँ उनको शादी में खत्म कर दिया. शादी के बाद भी कुछ ओपन फैमिलीज बची जिन्होंने आगे जाने को दिया. These are the women who are leading the organizations. They are the people who are actually there at good stages in every area. तभी आप देखोगे कि percentages of men to women is just too huge. 90-10 का रेशियो होगा. This is how diversity and inclusion works in organization. And when we talk about now, imagine you talk to somebody, any male member. अच्छा होता है कि हमारे क्लास में कोई मोटा लड़का हो. Here we have these things. So, but what happens is if you talk to any male, any boy of your age group or our age group, every time they say कि सब कुछ तो मिल रहा है women. What is where it is lacking? क्या प्रॉब्लम है? कहाँ लैक हो रहा है? खाने को अच्छा मिल रहा है, पहनने को अच्छा मिल रहा है, घूम सकते हैं, रात साथ जा सकते हैं. But is it really there? So that choice of whether I can go all alone at 1 o'clock in the night, is it there? It's not there. Suppose your brother or your family member, any male member wants to go out at 1 o'clock in the night, anybody stops them? He might stop them कि बहुत लेट हो गया है, कि रात को ठीक नहीं है जाना. That's the two things. But is it safe or it is not safe is only told to the girls. तो अब नाइट शिफ्ट में काम करने वाले तो करेंगे ना, उनको तो अब ये नहीं चाहिए कि मेन है या वुमेन है. They actually want the right skills to be there. So all these things that goes in our upbringing, all those things that goes in how we have been brought up, my nurturing phase उसमें हुई, comes to diversity and inclusion. It has a direct impact on this. So whenever what is an HR you can do now? What are the solutions that HR people can bring into the organization? Is simply that stop looking at the biases. Stop looking at the people from different kind of. What you have to see now in people is only their merit, which is their qualification, the percentages that they have earned, and the skill set that they have. So when people come to us, many women come to us now in the corporates where they really want to work again. So after a gap of 5 years, बच्चे बड़े हो गए, 5 साल के हो गए, अपने आप रह सकते हैं. So now they want to come back. Some try to do it after 10 years. And what organization do is कि आपका 10 साल का गैप हो गया, पीछे हट गए, आपकी सैलरी 20% कम मिलेगी. जो आप ले रहे थे उससे भी 20% कम. If somebody was drawing 10 lakhs उस टाइम पे 10 साल के गैप के बाद अगर उसे बोल रहे हैं 8 लाख पे ज्वाइन करो, how good is that? Are you making any point? Because salary is not about just the qualification or 10 years की वो पीछे चले गए हैं. Salary तो आपको की services के लिए दो. That the amount of work that person is going to do in your organization for 8 hours, 9 hours every day. Also, you are paying salary on the basis of the inflation which is happening. अब अगर इन्फ्लेशन हर साल 5% बढ़ रहा है, 10% बढ़ रहा है, और आप सैलरी 2 या 3% बढ़ाओगे या बढ़ाओगे ही नहीं, तो कैसे काम चलेगा? People will not grow. The economy will not grow, and that is the reason why our economy is not growing. वरना इतनी बड़ी जनसंख्या, इतनी सारी कंपनीज, इतने सारे लोग होने के बाद we are not able to bring our economy to that level. अभी तक हमने easily बहुत अच्छे से चाइना को पीछे कर दिया, बहुत easily. But the problem is वहाँ basic education देने के लिए कोई पीछे नहीं. They are at least providing their daughters basic education, and that is the reason why women is also going out and working. They are independent financially. What happens with us is we are not providing them. So आप देखोगे बहुत सारी जनता women is going out to work, but कहाँ work कर रहे हैं? वो इतने unorganized sector में, जहाँ उनको 50,000 तनख्वाह मिलनी चाहिए वहाँ उनको 12-15,000 मिलनी. Purely because they don't know their rights, they don't know what to ask for, they do not have the right education, or simply because they are not presentable or their personality is not really good to that. और इसीलिए जो हम कहते हैं कि प्रिविलेज और नॉन प्रिविलेज वाला सिस्टम चल रहा है, वो सिस्टम जब तक बचपन से खत्म होना शुरू नहीं होगा तब तक उसका बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट कंपनीज के अंदर नहीं होगा. That is the reason why under CSR activities, lot many organizations have started adopting NGOs for different villages जहाँ वो उनको grow करते हैं. जैसे रिलायंस करता है, टाटा करता है, इन्फोसिस करता है, तो उन्होंने छोटे-छोटे villages adopt कर लिए अपने आसपास के. What they do is they provide proper education, proper infrastructure, proper things, so that उन्हीं बच्चों में से कोई बच्चा निकल के बड़ा होकर अच्छी-अच्छी कंपनीज चला सके, एंटरप्रेन्योर बन सके या खुद कंपनीज में आके जॉब कर सके. So equal opportunity starts from there, not just in the office. So diversity and inclusion is a vast topic to talk about. अब इसका हमारी कंपनीज के अंदर एज एन एचआर क्या इम्पैक्ट आता है, कहाँ कहाँ पर इम्पैक्ट आता है? Starts from when you are looking for the right people in your company. अब अगर आपकी कंपनी में लिखा तो है आपकी पॉलिसी में कि दे आर इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी इन कंपनी, बट पीछे से आपको बोला गया है कि वुमेन ज्यादा हायर मत करना, मेटर्निटी लेंगी, नुकसान हो जाता है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली यू स्टॉप लुकिंग फॉर वुमेन इवन इफ दे आर स्किल्ड, स्पेशली इन दैट एज ग्रुप जहाँ उनकी शादी हुई है, बच्चा पैदा करने की एज आ रही है. सो दे वोंट स्टॉप, यू स्टॉप कंप्लीटली. फिर आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से ये कल्चर से ये बताया जाता है कि यू कैन नॉट हायर पीपल बिकॉज वी आर नॉट सेंसिटिव इनफ फॉर एलजीबीटी. तो ना वो वाला 6%, 8% लोग भी चले गए. सेम थिंग विद डिसेबल, वो भी निकाल दिए. नाउ द कंपनी वांट्स टू ओनली हायर पीपल फ्रॉम द टॉप ब्रैकेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस. टॉप ब्रैकेट तक कौन पहुंचता है? IIMs तक वेरी फ्यू परसेंटेज, 12, 13, 15% ऑफ इंडिया, दैट्स ऑल. सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अगर अपनी जॉब पोस्टिंग में यही डालेंगे कि वी ओनली वांट पीपल फ्रॉम ए ग्रेड इंस्टीट्यूट्स, डू यू थिंक दे विल बी एबल टू एवर गेट द राइट अमाउंट ऑफ पीपल इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन? मिल ही नहीं सकता है, क्योंकि परसेंटेज ऑफ नंबर ऑफ कंपनीज एंड द नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स, उसी में इतना बड़ा इक्विलिब्रियम प्रॉब्लम है. सो दीस आर द थिंग्स दैट वी फेस ड्यूरिंग हायरिंग. हम हायरिंग से आगे चलते हैं कंपनी के अंदर आगे एम्प्लॉय. उसके बाद अब अगर हम परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल की बात करते हैं, परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल करते हुए भी एक सेम प्रॉब्लम्स. इसका कल्चरल बैकग्राउंड अलग है, तो बायस हो गया उसके साथ. ये वुमेन ने इसने ब्रेक लिया था बीच में 6 महीने क्योंकि इसके दादाजी बीमार थे, इसके फादर बीमार थे, व्हाटएवर, जिसकी बात नहीं ब्रेक लिया तो इसको प्रॉपर अप्रेजल नहीं देंगे क्योंकि 6 महीने कंपनी में नहीं थी. देन बहुत सारे ऐसे keep talking the entire day and talking this, right? So these are the things which will keep coming in. Appraisals के अंदर भी आ गए. Now similar things happens in training and development. अब हम training and development दे रहे हैं. Training and development में we ask women that to come and join. We are organizing 2-day training program on Saturday, Sunday outside Delhi. जब दिल्ली की कंपनी में तेरे हम 2 दिन के लिए सबको बाहर निकालते हैं. अब now every woman has a responsibility to run home also. बच्चे हैं, घर का सब काम करना है, चाहे हम कितने भी बड़े हो जाएं, चाहे कितनी भी लीडरशिप पोजीशन में पहुंच जाए, some people expect. Some people can 90% have this kind of things. अब all male members are going to that training program. 3 ladies में से एक गई, बाकी दो के घर में problem है, she didn't go. So now what happened to these 2 ladies? उनका अपना growth in development, which could have been there in the organization, has stopped. Purely because they could not attend. तो उनका level automatically दो grade नीचे आ गया बाद में. So that's the problem that they face. अब maternity पे आते हैं, so maternity obviously women has to take it. There is no other way. अगर आपने बच्चा पैदा करने की आपके अंदर ही क्षमता है तो आप करोगे. That is, there is no other way. You cannot delegate this to your husband ever. And उसके बाद अब you have to breastfeed the child for 6 months, so that is also your responsibility. Nobody else can do it for you. So those minimum 6 months you have to be on the bed. There is no other way. Even if you have a very good support system, but your child needs you for these 6 months for breastfeeding, so you cannot move them. So these 6 months again gone. अब आप 6 महीने तो पीछे हो ही गए अपने बाकी काउंटर पार्ट से जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम कर रहे हैं. So that means that gap has started increasing from here on. और उससे पहले का गैप भी आया होगा when you were getting married. अब अगर आप दिल्ली में रहते हो या किसी और शहर में रहते हो, आपकी शादी हो गई दिल्ली से बाहर, तो जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आप काम कर रहे थे आपको छोड़ना पड़ेगा. I have to shift to another city. I have to again start looking for job. कितने साल बाद या कितने महीने बाद शादी के दोनों. कुछ फैमिलीज कहती है 1 साल ब्रेक ले लो फिर करना, 6 महीने ब्रेक ले लो फिर ज्वाइन करना, whatever. So various families, different kind of things, expectations. So this is how most of the women stop actually going out and do work because they automatically think कुछ women में तो है courage, strength to fight against the system or convince people. Some women do not have that. What would they do is their parents have said themselves, fine. My husband is saying that this is what I need to do, I will do. Yes, so they become automatically submissive. Imagine now these are the same girls if we're talking about जिन्होंने 12th में 12 बच्चों को कराया था, all boys को they okay. And now these are the women which we are saying is they become submissive. So this is how the journey of women has been. So this gap of diversity between men and women has increased over the years purely because of these things. And imagine 1960s में ज़्यादा better थे औरतों को काम देने में और वो करने में. Now we have become so suddenly. अब और एक नई चीज पिछले 6 साल 8 साल से शुरू हो गई है जब से नई गवर्नमेंट आ गई है कि अगर आप पहले वुमेन हो, फिर माइनॉरिटी हो, क्रिश्चियन हो या मुस्लिम हो और फिर थोड़ी सी पुअर फैमिली से हो, तो फिर तो आपके चांसेस ही रह गए हैं कहीं भी काम करना आपको मिलने वाले. So all these biases have automatically started coming in. Imagine, people ask you these questions. I told you this thing, I think HR is asking this question whether you are a BJP follower or not. You are a Muslim lady. Because she was so perplexed कि क्या जवाब दूँ. No, she shared this story with us. That's why I know this story firsthand. I was not the interviewer. Somebody else was. So the male and he was very BJP, this guy. And he asked this question, क्या BJP follower? She said, no, I don't believe in politics at all. इसे नहीं आपको एक चीज को आंसर करना ही पड़ेगा. मतलब he got stuck in the interview as an HR leader purely on this कि आप करोगे या नहीं करोगे. And this is not just one example. There are many more such examples which exist. So automatically हमारा government, हमारा political, हमारा status in the society, poor है, rich है या middle class है, इन सबका impact यहाँ पर आता है organization के जरिए. And automatically क्यों आने लग गया है? Because society is a large system. Organization उसी में से निकला हुआ एक छोटा system. So whatever will happen in society automatically will have an impact. And how we have to remove this impact is only with awareness and right amount of training. So now we will talk about, अभी तक हमने problems के बारे में बात करी एक घंटा. अब rest of the class we will talk about the solutions. So let's take a break. Come back in 10 minutes and then we'll talk about the solutions.
Okay.
strategies हम use कर सकते हैं? What as an HR, good practitioner, what as a good organization we can do so that we can remove all these biases right from the day we start bringing them into the organization. Arya Gurvita, I'm ask you often. So number one is basically we're talking about diversity sourcing. Diversity sourcing is what we have already spoken about a little bit, that when you are actually looking for the right kind of people, you can actually look for some keywords that you can post in your jobs or when you're searching for the right amount of people. So these strings, जैसे हमने boolean search का string बनाया था, so boolean search के strings में हम क्या क्या चीजें use कर सकते हैं so that you get right people. For example, if you're looking for specifically black people in your organization, you can open up gates for that. Latinos के लिए, people with disabilities, women in IT और LGBTQ. So ये सब specific keywords हैं जिनको आप अपने strings में डाल के उन्हीं areas में से, उन्हीं groups में से आप ज़्यादातर skilled लोगों को hire कर सकते हैं. So that's how you can do diversity sourcing deliberately. एक तो होता है sourcing when you are open. You are open as an organization, you are open as an HR, जो मर्जी आ जाए, we will have them. And then another diversity sourcing is where you're looking for specific people so that you look like that you are doing only for diversity and inclusion. So for example, a very lot of companies started doing this thing as a part of their diversity and inclusion practice when they started talking about diversity and inclusion 5-7 years back, maybe 10 years back also. So companies like Philips, Vodafone, one was very big, I think LG. So these three companies specifically started hiring from diversity groups, especially women. Because जब इनकी percentage देखी जाए, so Philips and LG is those companies जो FMCG companies हैं ज़्यादा, fast moving consumer goods में आते हैं. Now FMCG में women percentage is very less, especially from middle to senior level. So what they did was they deliberately opened up gates for women only to join the organization, so that उनका जो ratio of men to women है वो increase हो गया. Prior to this exercise, the ratio of men to women was 82 and 18%. Only 18% women were working, 82% male. So after this entire exercise, they had to increase it to minimum 30%. So now they have reached to that stage and they are maintaining all three companies, right? So some companies do that. And I'm just taking you big names because brands है पता चल जाते हैं और भी बहुत सारी organizations ने ये सब किया है. And छोटे level पे, in fact, smaller MSME sector startups are doing much better than larger organizations in diversity. They are opening more gates for women, especially. जो लोग breaks पे थे वापस आना चाहते हैं, especially women in IT has become very popular thing because IT में बहुत अच्छी होती हैं लड़कियां, but because of again same thing, marriage, शादी, transfers, promotions of husbands, बहुत सारे reasons जाते हैं तो उनको छोड़नी पड़ती है. So now because of those 2 years when women were, everybody was working from home, so they opened up many opportunities only for women in IT or women in that respect who can actually work from home and still earn good income. इसको कहते हैं diversity sourcing in hiring. Then second आता है diversity focused job fairs. So now organization opens up and organize some job fairs, which is very similar to this diversity sourcing, where they invite people from all communities to come and join the job fairs, and then they can give interviews, they can be assessed, they can be evaluated by HR teams and the other team members for their skill set to be working together. Then third is university graduates and diversity associations. So now many organizations or university graduates have started doing this, that they start promoting their own diversity associations to the colleges when they are sending their newsletters for placements. So there we talk about we have diverse students, our universities like that, and we invite similar kind of organizations who can give opportunities for these diverse people from various backgrounds. Then employee reference works really wonderful. Now employee reference कैसे काम करते हैं? that you are open for such practices, that you are opening your doors for diversity and you are including all these people in the organization. So you give bonuses and rewards to your own people to bring the right amount of other people also. कि आपकी फैमिली में है कोई डिसेबल है, आपकी फैमिली में है कोई जिसको जॉब नहीं मिल रही है, स्किल सेट है. So all these people are then brought into the organization and the employee gets rewarded by bonuses, prizes, rewards. So usually we काम करते हैं मतलब employee reference works in the other side of normal hiring के टाइप पे भी करते हैं internal में, but then you can specifically use it for the diversity and inclusion. Now, how to hire from the company side? What more you can do is this blind hiring practice. The third point I've already told you how it is being done by most organizations. Then first is diverse interview panel. Here, after the interview panel you're choosing, one, this interview panel should be open. I mean, they should be trained to remove all their biases. They should be trained that they only have to hire people with the skill set and the competencies that is required to do this one particular job. And then the panel itself is diverse. So if you already have somebody from LGBTQ, why not to bring them into your panel? If you already have a disabled person, why not to bring that person? Because then the connection of with the candidate is much better. They can probe them, asking those questions which they have felt or they have felt into problems. This is the kind of thing we can do. Second additional point, diversity training for recruiters. So usually diversity training is done for the entire organization, not just for the recruiters. But why specifically for recruiters? So recruiters generally नहीं थे जो HR वाले recruiters है वो भी recruiters are also those people who take interviews from sales, marketing, functional जिनका भी major काम होता है अपनी टीम के अंदर लोग employ करने का उनके लिए भी. So they should get and undergo these diversity training. So in diversity training we talk about all those things that we spoken about अभी एक घंटे. क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करते हैं, कैसे आप अपने बायसेस रिमूव कर सकते हैं, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ बायसेस जो एक्चुअली फेस हमें पता ही नहीं होते हैं पर वो अननोइंगली हमारा वो बायस सामने निकल कर आ जाता है. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स वी ट्रेन देम, we put them into those categories where they are in a group of, say for example you are joining my organization, right? So I put Arya into that panel. I'll ask those questions कि आप आपके आसपास सारे लोग डिसेबल या एलजीबीटी वाले ही हैं और वुमेन है, तो आप कैसे काम करोगे? So now this person has to immediately think of the solutions and then do it. वहीं पर ही पता चल जाता है कि कितना हम prepared है, कितना aware है, कितना हमारा acceptance है. So all those things we start getting to know from there onwards. And then you train these people. कैसे आप biases remove कर सकते हैं, किस तरीके से आप अपने आप को और open कर सकते हैं. All these things then help these employees to become better. Imagine जब हम horses को dogs को train कर सकते हैं अच्छे से, right? These people उनका intelligence level हमारे IQ से कम होता है, still they can be trained. So when it comes to humans, it is really easy for them to get right amount of training and awareness, and they can really change as a human. The only problem currently in our country is that we do not have right amount of soft skills trainings, diversity based training, sensitivity, gender sensitivity training. ये सब हम देते ही नहीं. अब क्या होता है, प्रॉब्लम क्या है, पेट्रियार्की के कारण, बिकॉज पेट्रियार्की सालों साल चलती आ रही है. तो घर में बच्चा ये देख रहा है हमेशा से, कोई भी बच्चा है किसी भी जेंडर का, मेल या वुमेन, हमेशा ये देख रहा है कि मम्मी ही खाना बना रही है, सिस्टर्स ही बर्तन रख रही है, ब्रदर्स कुछ भी नहीं रहे हैं, फादर्स काम नहीं कर रहे थे. तो वो एक जनरेशन से ऑटोमेटिकली दूसरे में पास हुआ, किसी ने नहीं सिखाया, किसी ने रोका नहीं, किसी ने बोला नहीं. और जिन घरों में वहां पर सबके लिए बराबर है सब चीजें सिस्टम, तो उनके लिए ये चीज ऑटोमेटिकली आगे बढ़ती है. So you will see both the kind of families around you, where people are automatically learning from one generation to another without being bothered कि कहाँ मुझे रोकना है, कहाँ चेंज करना है, कैसे इस चीज को दूर करना है. तो इसका एक स्टडी किया गया on small children, children who generally go to UKG, LKG and nursery. उन पर एक छोटा सा ट्रेनिंग किया गया, उनको एक बड़ी से टॉय शॉप में छोड़ दिया गया. And then these kids were asked to choose whatever they like. So people were thinking, जो वहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग, जो शॉपकीपर्स थे या जो शॉप में सेल्स पीपल थे, एक्चुअली वो टेलिंग गर्ल्स की जाओ, वो गुड़िया सेक्शन है, वो किचन सेट है, उधर है, बट उन्होंने देखा कि लड़कियां दूसरी तरफ जा रही हैं, दे वर पिकिंग अप बाइक्स एंड कार्स एंड स्टफ व्हिच वी जनरली डोंट लेट देम डू दैट, एंड लड़कों के साथ कुछ कुछ लड़के कितना उल्टा हो रहा है, दे वर पिकिंग पिंक स्टफ, सॉफ्ट टॉयज, all those things. So gender से रिलेटेड जो भी हम बातें करते हैं कि ये सिर्फ वुमेन करेगी या ये सिर्फ मेन करेगा, वो छोटे बच्चों में नहीं होती till the age of 6-7. It's only when we start teaching them, we start showing them that practice, we start telling them that this is women, this is men, then only they start. Physical abilities we cannot change. That is psychological, physiological changes. So we cannot change, so obviously this is how we are being. But what we can change is the number of choices that a person can have. What we can change is the way somebody wants to handle certain things. What we can change is that the choices somebody can have to choose anything as per the freedom that they should choose. So that's what we can change. And that's what can make a lot of difference into organizations when we talk about diversity. Now, what four types of biases generally comes from? हमारे जो biases होते हैं जब हम इंटरव्यू दे रहे होते हैं या राइट लोग चूज कर रहे होते हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, नंबर वन इज जेंडर, men, women and other genders. Then ethnicity. Ethnicities की कौन से बैकग्राउंड से है, किस तरीके का है, दलित है, कास्ट क्या है, क्रीड क्या है, all those things. The race is then, again similar things to ethnicity, but race is more complicated. Black है, white है, all those things. अब इसके अलावा भी छोटे छोटे biases आते हैं. For example, you are in the interview panel. You are not trained to remove your biases. अब आपके सामने जिसको हम नॉर्मल भाषा में अगली कहते हैं, ऐसा कोई मनुष्य आ गया, any human being who's come in front of you, and now you have to interview that person. First impression जनरली हमारा उसका फेस या उसकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज देखकर ही खराब होता है. And that is how we have been trained since the time we have been going to school, colleges or outside in society. तो हमें अच्छे से पढ़ाया जाता है बचपन से ही कि सुंदर क्या होता है, गोरा शरीर या गोरा चेहरा, अगली क्या होता है, काला या जिसके थोड़ा सा आँख मुंह नाक टेढ़ा हो. राइट, सो दिस इज हाउ वी हैव बीन टॉट. इमेजिन, और ये सब चीजें मैं बना नहीं रही हूँ, आप छोटे बच्चों की स्कूल की किताबें देखो, फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड की हिंदी की किताबें, अगली क्या है, हिंदी और इंग्लिश की अगली क्या है, उसमें तस्वीर ऐसी, फोटोग्राफ्स लाइक ब्लैक वुमेन या वाइट ब्लैक वुमेन. Why are we teaching somebody ugly in such small age, and that too ugly का हम इस तरह का differentiation दे रहे हैं जो हमारी physicality से related है. So this is how things have to change from the very basics, and then it has to reach to that level. अब जो bias आपने अपने 5 साल की उम्र में पढ़ा, 7 साल में पढ़ा, 11 साल में पढ़ा, अब वो bias unconsciously सब mind में चला गया है, आपके unconscious mind. Now you have become an interviewer, successful HR manager बन गए, पढ़ लिया HR के बारे में सर, यहाँ पहुँच गए, इंटरव्यू ले रहे हैं. So now automatically अगर वैसा ही अब कोई चेहरा आपके सामने आएगा, because सबकॉन्शियस माइंड में वो ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड है कि अगली है, तो वो पहली थॉट ही वहाँ पर क्या आएगी, अगली. अब इट्स नॉट योर फॉल्ट, इट्स नॉट दैट पर्सन्स फॉल्ट, इट इज द फॉल्ट ऑफ द काइंड ऑफ एजुकेशन दैट हैज बीन गिवन. इसीलिए हम इनको कहते हैं अनकॉन्शियस बायस, जो हमें भी पता नहीं चलता है, बट ऑटोमेटिकली आ जाते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हमारा बिहारी से कहीं दूर दूर तक कोई रिश्ता नहीं हुआ, कोई हमारी बातचीत नहीं हुई, हमने किसी को हायर नहीं किया, बट दे आर बिकम सो पॉपुलर कि अब हमें कोई बिहारी कभी मिलेगा तो भी हमारे दिमाग में सबसे पहले वो बायस आता है ऑटोमेटिक, चाहे हमारे साथ कभी कुछ नहीं हुआ. few things अब जैसे सब, it's a very common notion in the whole world is कि सारे मुस्लिम ही टेररिस्ट हैं, राइट, पिक्चर भी बन गई, my name is Khan but I'm not terrorist, फिर भी that is not going away, अब तो और ज्यादा बढ़ता चला जा रहा है, राइट, इंडिया में तो. So why such biases are we bringing in? Imagine now Muslim family जो अच्छी फैमिलीज हैं सारे लोग, तो उनके बच्चे भी ये छोटे छोटे, अब 4-5 साल के बच्चों को आप ये दिखा रहे हो that they are terrorists, उसके दिमाग में डल रहा है एवरी डे नाइट that they are terrorists. तो वो बड़ा होकर उसके पास क्या चॉइस बनने की? Either he or she will become really really good, very good human being, or he or she will become terrorist. how the society is pushing these people to get into that kind of thing. Now imagine करें कोई बच्चा जेल में रहकर आया, juvenile jail, 18 साल से कम उम्र में they did some crime and they didn't. Now for juvenile, you get to know in your interview that this person has come from juvenile section. Will you give that person a chance to make changes in them, or you will give them this bias कि नहीं इसने crime किया है, is not really up to that person, and then you will not hire this person. So उसकी opportunities तो वहीं खत्म हो गई. अब उसके पास choice क्या बची? हर जगह से उसको rejection आया, हर जगह से no आया. What choices he or she has? Very strong, very courageous, very high willpower people will find a way. They will get into the right track. But people who are not that strong, not that high willpower, what will they do? They will say कि सब तो criminal कह रहे हैं तो मैं कर ही लेता हूँ. So automatically. So this is how things are happening even now. So we don't give chances for people to really come out of the biases that they are always driving. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अब पास्ट में आपने बचपन में कोई गलती की होगी या घर में कुछ गलती हुई होगी, आई एम श्योर योर सिबलिंग्स वुड रियली टेल यू ईच एंड एवरी टाइम कुछ भी होता होगा कि तुमने ऐसे किया होगा. So it's in a lighter moment because they are siblings. But ये हमारी habit बन जाती है when we start treating that person from their past behaviors or whatever happened in the past. This is also one of the biases that we have. And then age is a normal bias. आप 50 साल से ऊपर के हो तो you cannot perform these duties, इसलिए we will not hire you, no matter how experienced you are. आप 25 साल से कम के हो, you do not have that much of experience, so we will not hire you because you do not have an experience. So obviously 25 साल के हैं, कॉलेज पास से क्या है, वो एक्सपीरियंस कैसे होगा? I actually laugh at, we have a group of more than 200 people, it's this of HR of India in our groups. And we actually talk and laugh about these advertisements which comes on LinkedIn. कि fresher चाहिए with experience of knowing how to sell. How can a fresher have the experience of how to sell in the market? Imagine. Even if the internship, so you talk about internship that you should have taken an internship from a good college, a good corporate. Or you would have done some project. You cannot ask for 3 years of experience from a fresher and then pay them as a fresher. So those advertisements, those job postings are full of biases like that. So hence, why as an HR, it is very important to know about all these things. So मुझे भी, I am not a sociology student, जिसको इतना सभी जानकारी मिली. It was on this journey of becoming a better HR every day. I started learning about these things कि कैसे हम diversity inclusion के अंदर कुछ कर सकते हैं. So I opened up my own school for younger children, जहाँ हम 5-6 साल के बच्चों को यही सब चीजें सिखाते हैं कि there is no gender bias. Everything is automatically done. So change लेकर आना is starting basically from that age where when you are growing up. और सिर्फ बच्चों को ही नहीं पढ़ाना, उनके पेरेंट्स को बताना that what you are teaching is absolutely wrong from the very start. Then आता है आपका cultivate an inclusive place. So now how we can do? What are the policies as an HR that you can incorporate in your organization, and then you can actually make some beautiful changes out there. And some people have already done that. Some good organizations have already brought in those changes in their organization. So these are few examples of that. Then what areas you can bring in what kind of changes. So for example, let's start with leadership involvement. So whenever we are talking about diversity and inclusion, we cannot talk about in isolation without having our leadership, the team of CEOs, CXOs involved into the entire process. First, their training has to be done. They should be changing their mindset, and that's when it can flow down to the other level. Because hierarchy ऊपर से नीचे तक flow होती है. All rules and regulations, all policies flow down from top to bottom. So hence, it is very important that to start with leadership involvement. So ensure diversity at all levels of management should happen. The second point here, it says that assign a top executive to lead or sponsor your diversity program. किसी एक अब तो बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में डेजिग्नेशन भी ऐसा दे दिया गया है that this person has to handle he or she is, for example, the chief of diversity, chief equality officer, manager equality. So their role is basically designed to that. उनका काम ही यही है. They have to see whether people are following that diversity and inclusion in the organization. They are being trained into that. they are making changes, and that's where. So if you point somebody at a leadership position, एक तो फायदा ये हो जाएगा कि लीडर है, ऑलरेडी उसकी सब बात मानेंगे ही मानना है. सेकंड, उसको आप ट्रेन कर दोगे तो उसके अंदर के जितने भी एम्प्लॉइज हैं वो सब ऑटोमेटिकली चेंज होना शुरू हो जाएंगे, बिकॉज when you walk the talk of being a leader, then people start following you automatically. So that's how the change can be.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, what if as an HR I want to implement these policies like to reduce the biasness while hiring people, but what if my higher authorities don't allow me to do so?
Yeah, it is very important. So until and unless the organization is not ready, you as an individual cannot bring to it.
Ma'am, then what is the option? Like we have to leave the organization.
You have to prepare your organization first. So HR का job ऐसा थोड़ी ना कि वहाँ काम करना है. The HR sometimes have to fight with the leadership a lot of times. Right? If you have to fight in the sense, not ऐसे कि बालों खींच के type, but you have to actually put your ground firm. What you have to say, you say politely, you say with firmness, and you bring and convince them with facts and figures. Very important. Because all CEOs of the world understand only one language. कि हमारा cost में क्या फर्क आएगा, हमारी profitability कैसे increase होगी, हमारी productivity कैसे increase. So why not to talk to them in that language? That is the reason why I showed you those surveys. कि BCG ये कह रहा है, McKinsey ये कह रहा है. All these 4 top companies in the world is talking about if your company is more inclusive, have better diversity, that means that you are better innovators. That means there are chances that you are earning 19% more revenue than other organizations. So what more facts do you need? So bring the facts and figures to your leadership, make a presentation. This is persuasion and negotiation skills. So that's how you have to persuade these people. And that's when you can bring the change. That is why I'm saying that this is something which HR is changing in one time. This particular topic, हम training and development, performance इन सब की बातें कर रहे हैं, वो सब तो है ही हमारा काम, HR का काम है, but major हमारा focus अभी कहाँ जा रहा है सब का, यहाँ is bringing diversity and inclusion more proper. That's why we did a very small CSR activity for one of the clients. We took them to a smaller, what do you call it, NGO, जहाँ बच्चों को पढ़ाया जाता है. Parents उनको support नहीं कर पाते education में, so this NGO takes care of it. So slum areas में जाके they open up a school and they teach. So the idea for this CSR activity was purely this कि जो privileged बच्चे हैं, it's a very young organization, started थे 8 साल पुरानी, but सब बहुत young हैं. And it's 23, 24, 25 में we started noticing कि बहुत ज़्यादा attitude आते हैं. They are earning good money, 1 लाख रुपए, 1.5 लाख रुपए, incentives इतने इधर ले जा रहे हैं. एक में 20 लाख की कार खरीदी है रोमांस पे. तो ऑल दिस थिंग्स अपने आप में वो ऑटोमेटिकली प्राइड आ गई, तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो आ गया. एक के फादर का फोन आया कि आपके ऑफिस टाइमिंग्स हैं. इमेजिन फादर ऑफ एम्प्लॉइज कॉलिंग मी कि आपका टाइमिंग्स क्या है, सैटरडे को बच्चा कभी घर में नहीं है. सैटरडे वर ऑल ऑफ, व्हाई आई एम नॉट श्योर ही इज नॉट देयर होम. किड्स हैव स्टार्टेड टेलिंग दिस टू देयर पेरेंट्स कि हम सैटरडे भी ऑफिस जाते हैं. So all these things, तो उनको reality test कराना बहुत जरूरी है. These CSR activities basically tell them that this is the realities of life, where there are children who are like you are not getting equal opportunity like you have got. So what you have got, yes, you have got it with your own will. आपने कमाया है उसको, it's not really that is not your skills or not your merit, but do not take pride in that. Try and support other kids to achieve that. तो इमेजिन इन्हीं सब बच्चों में से जो हमारे ऑफिस के थे, उन्होंने वहां से उन बच्चों को अडॉप्ट किया देयर एजुकेशन, देयर स्पॉन्सरिंग देयर एजुकेशन. दिस इज द राइट थिंग. अब 50 एम्प्लॉइज में से 3 ने भी कर लिया, तो दैट मींस आवर पर्पस इज सॉल्व कि हमारा सीएसआर एक्टिविटी सक्सेसफुल. नेक्स्ट एक्टिविटी सम मोर विल बी. These are few reality checks that you have to do as an HR so that you keep that balance in the society also. So HR बनना कोई आसान काम नहीं है. It's a different kind of a route altogether if you really want to create an impact in the entire society, not just in your organization. You can actually do wonderful work. It is CSR आपके अंदर आ गया, डाइवर्सिटी इंक्लूजन आपके अंदर आ गया, क्रॉस फंक्शनल क्रॉस जो नेगोशिएशंस और आउटसाइड ग्लोबल कंपनीज के साथ हम करते हैं वो भी आपके अंदर आ गया, एक्विजिशंस आपके अंदर आ गया. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स और वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स हैव नाउ कम. सो जो पुराने जमाने के एचआर हैं वो अभी तक वहीं अटके हुए हैं. परफॉर्मेंस अपग्रेड, ट्रेनिंग एंड डेवलपमेंट, एग्जिट कर लिया, इंटरव्यू अंदर लिया, बट हाउ आर दे डूइंग इट हैज चेंज्ड दिस एंटायर. Next point आता है फिर education and training, which we have already spoken about almost. कि often unconscious bias और sensitivity training सबसे important part ही है. Starting ही यही से होना है कि आपने पूरी organization को prepare करना है कि आप उनकी जगह पे होंगे, because once these people are inside the organization, then bringing changes is not going to. Before you actually bring the people in the organization, you have to start making changes. So it's a very huge task. लगता बहुत आसान ट्रेनिंग देंगे, but it's a huge task. अभी तो हम मेल फीमेल का ही नहीं गैप खत्म कर पा रहे हैं, तो ये वाला गैप तो धीरे धीरे आएगा. But best thing is that younger generation like you people who are now coming in the areas, they are more open, they are more ready to change, they are more adaptive, they understand. Because कहीं पर थोड़ा सा चेंज हुआ है एजुकेशन सिस्टम में, कुछ कॉलेजेस के अंदर, बहुत सारी जगहों पर. सो एंड प्लस सोशल मीडिया हैज स्प्रेड दिस थिंग अक्रॉस एवरीवेयर. तो हमारे टाइम में सोशल मीडिया का ही तो पता ही नहीं था डाइवर्सिटी इंक्लूजन में क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आ रही है. राइट, ऑल दिस थिंग्स वी स्टार्टेड टू नो व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड वर्किंग कितनी प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती है डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ सोसाइटी. इवन उसके बाद भी तो एचआर का नॉर्मल काम ही चल रहा है. It's good that social media presence of all this information which is there, so many things that you can learn and talk about, you can see. और यहाँ बैठकर आपको पता है कि अमेरिका में भी कितनी अच्छी प्रैक्टिस हो रही है. वो पहले आने में आपको लाइब्रेरी जाना पड़ता था, जर्नल्स पढ़ने पड़ते थे, मैगजीन्स पढ़ने पड़ते थे. आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर कि हम अमेरिकन सोसाइटी ऑफ ट्रेनिंग एंड डेवलपमेंट की बुक्स आती थी टू गो टू लाइब्रेरी टू जस्ट रीड दैट. वहाँ की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस क्या है हमें कभी पता चला. So now it's just at the touch of a button. सब कुछ आपके पास. So it becomes so easy. Then second, organize diversity and inclusion workshops. So workshops in the sense that you bring that kind of cases, that you bring that kind of sensitive areas into the workplace and then train the people. That okay, these are the things that can really happen. You can show them what really goes into the problem areas for these people and how you can bring the solutions. Then third is training on teamwork and collaboration. That's for every level. It is very important. Whether we are talking about diversity or not, teamwork पे काम करना is becoming a very big problem. Where suddenly again, now with social media presence, इसके बहुत सारे positives भी हैं, but negatives भी हैं. One negative is this, that social media has inculcated in people that they can survive individually also. आप अकेले रहोगे, आपके पास फोन है, आप अपना पूरा टाइम पास पूरा दिन काट सकते हो. You don't need people. So teamwork is that's why removing from people, it's going away. So to bring that teamwork and you cannot exist all alone by yourself in an organization. You need to have people collaborating with you. You're working in a team. You're all together and then working and putting in efforts is very important. So such trainings and such collaborative things has to be done in a nice manner. Then offer conflict resolution education. Now conflict resolution, how it is associated? Because जहाँ diverse तरीके का population होगा, काम करेगा, वहाँ conflicts भी आएंगे, different kind. It can be on a level where people are getting personal with each other. It can be to a level where people are having problems in the organization while working with each other. So all those things. So every the government of India, in our acts and our laws, we have a conflict resolution complete. What you call it, chapter, an act on that. So हम generally वही follow करते हैं. Just rules and regulations. Within the organization, you can found your own inquiry team which can sit together and then form a solution for this. Then third point आता है आपकी policies and procedures. So क्या क्या policies and procedures आप change कर सकते हैं? You can actually talk about it in your diversity and inclusion in your company values. अगर आप respect की बात करो as one of the value for your organization, then that respect has to be shown to everyone, no matter what status, no matter what background, no matter what stature or hierarchy in the company. Then second is add diversity and inclusion in your company's mission and vision. अगर आपका विजन ही नहीं है अगले 10 साल के लिए 20 साल के लिए या आपकी मिशन स्टेटमेंट में ही कहीं भी डाइवर्सिटी एंड इंक्लूजन की बात नहीं हो रही है so there are chances that you are not really that serious about it the way you should. Then third is create and implement anti-discrimination policy. आपकी anti-discrimination policy should talk openly about the entire process. अगर आपने ऐसा कुछ भाषा का प्रयोग किया और ऐसी कोई हरकत करी, you will get this kind of punishment. This is the kind of rewards if you are doing that. This is the kind of punishment that you will get. So everything has to be very clearly stated in your policy statements, and that policy has to be rotated across people, and not just policy, the training on that policy, which is related to this unconscious bias and sensitivity. So these three things has to follow each other every time. जैसे ही कोई नया एम्प्लॉय आ रहा है, you have to repeat this thing. So it has to become part of your onboarding process also, no matter what kind of people. Then last point is issue a diversity and inclusion statement. So your own company's diversity and inclusion statement has to come out in it. It's like a tagline, or it is like something that you really believe in. What are the practices that you're doing? So you have to talk openly about it in different kind of media. Social media, print media, everywhere. So it should relate. जहाँ भी आपकी कंपनी की रेपुटेशन की बात हो रही है, they should be talking about diversity and inclusion also as part of the best practices that the company is following. And fourth point, very important आता है retention and development. Now, how you can implement professional development programs is give these trainings. अभी तक आपने unconscious bias और sensitivity training की लोगों को aware कराने के लिए की किस तरीके के लोग भी हैं, किस तरीके के लोग कंपनी में काम करने आएंगे, आपको साथ में काम करना है. Now, when you want to develop professionally, suppose you want to become the leader tomorrow in the organization, after that succession planning will start to their system. We have to teach these people that managing these people should automatically come to you, without these biases and giving them equal opportunity as you have got this opportunity to move on. So all those programs, what they have to develop for becoming the leader, they should also be inculcating that in their team members also, no matter what kind of team they have. एक अच्छे लीडर की पहचान क्या होती है? What is the sign of a good leader? If you have to become a good leader, how will people identify that Apurva is good leader? What is that one thing?
Ma'am,
Yeah, it's okay. Don't very good. Kavita, you know.
I didn't say anything. Arya said
Ma'am.
that.
Sorry?
Arya wants
अच्छा, Arya and Apurva. Okay. Arya, go.
Ma'am, I'm in the mess right now.
Sorry? They are in the mess.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am, in the hostel.
Apurva?
Ma'am, a good leader is the one who is able to take up everybody together, who is able to consider everybody's opinion, and if it is not worth considerable, then even he should be able to, make him understand that it is not that better, and also to make them satisfied with the decision which he is making.
Okay, that can be also one point. But one very distinct point that can actually दूसरे लोगों को पता चल जाता है this person can be a very good leader.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am,
please.
a good leader always take care of his team before himself.
Yeah, to take care of their team.
Before himself.
Ma'am,
ma'am.
charismatic personality.
Still that point is not correct. One popular belief is that you can be called a good leader only when you create more leaders like you. You give enough opportunity to your people that they also become leaders. So that kind of a development, that kind of training, that kind of professional growth, you are helping them grow. Imagine आप अभी आप leader हो, right? For example, मान लेते हैं कि आप एक head बन गए एक company के। अब आपके अंदर 4 HR managers हैं जो आपको report कर रहे हैं, and these people are not growing. They are like that. जैसे आपने hire किया था, वैसे ये काम अच्छा कर रहे हैं, but they are not growing. So if they are not growing, that means you are also not growing. You are also stuck, and they are also stuck. If they grow, then your growth will also happen. So it's a chain. When to become a very good leader, what you have to ensure is obviously you're taking care of your team. Obviously, you are really good in terms of their personality improvement and all that. But until unless they take up a new position, or maybe your position, you will also not grow. That's how this thing should happen. So that's a sign of a good leader. Even if in your own company that position is not free, you still want to hold on to HR head. बट आप उन एचआर मैनेजर्स को इतना अच्छे से तैयार करोगे अपने अंदर के कि वो बाहर कंपनी में जाके एचआर हेड. It doesn't mean that you should not train them. That leadership quality that you inculcated in them will always be called as your leadership quality. So to distinctively, if you have to become a very good leader, so imagine हमारे जो पुराने लीडर्स थे जिन्होंने स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में भाग लिया था ना, जो fought for the independence. Now what these people did is they did not fight this fight alone. What they did was they become leader. Then they started asking people to follow them. Once they started following them, they started inculcating those things. कि तुम अब जाके वो region संभालो, तुम वो संभालो, तुम. So from one leader, so many other leaders were born. And when they gave birth to so many leaders, so the entire India got into this particular thing in America, freedom fighting के लिए लड़ी. That's how it happened. It could not have happened purely because of one Subhash Chandra Bose, one Mahatma Gandhi. There were many more. People के बारे में बात ही नहीं होती है आज की. Those people should be highlighted. Slowly उनके नाम धीरे धीरे बाहर आ रहे हैं, but still huge amount of people, huge. I know one of very old friend of mine. He told कि उनकी पूरी फैमिली, उसके ग्रेट ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर से लेकर उसके ग्रैंडफादर तक, everybody fought for the freedom in some or the other. And they did significantly good work. बहुत अच्छा काम किया. But again, government ने उस टाइम पे क्योंकि records नहीं रख सकते थे, all these things were not that easy. So their name just vanished in that. Only the family knows about it. But now the family is ensuring कि वो stories सबको बाहर निकलना. So they started writing those stories down. Imagine कि great grandfather, मतलब fifth generation is now writing those stories and sharing those stories with people. So that's how the family thing is going on. These things can work at very later stages. Imagine अब इन्होंने टाटा कंपनी बनाई, that person died, and now it has been passed on to the next generation. So now J.R.D. Tata is also at that stage कि uh, God willing, he will also die maybe next 4 years, 5 years, kabhi bhi. So he's at that stage. So now he, as a leader, has not ensured कि अपनी family में से, क्योंकि उनकी शादी नहीं हुई, बच्चे नहीं हुए, तो obviously there is no one. But he tried to bring in somebody जो उनकी family को संभाल सके, उनका family business आगे संभाल सके. So the only fault that J.R.D. Tata or this entire system did was they did not did succession planning towards it. अपनी जगह पर अभी भी उनके पास कोई नाम नहीं है कि कौन जगह ले. So that's a very thing. मैंने साइरस को रखा था पूना वाला for from this company. Very large construction company. उनके बेटे को he adopted and he gave for few years, he gave the leadership to that person, but unfortunately could not work the way he wanted. Actually, he is still in a fix that who she should be bringing into that. That is very important as a leader. If you don't have a succession planning, तो आपके पास कौन जगह लेने वाला है, so your entire business can actually go into trouble. Same thing happened with Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani. Why Mukesh Ambani is more successful than Anil Ambani? Purely because of the same succession. One learned how to run the business properly. The other one did not learn it from father. He learned how to frivolously use the money, and hence he became bank. And how Mukesh Ambani का business आगे बढ़ा. Now, recently, Mukesh Ambani resigned from being the chairman of Reliance. He gave this speech to his son. So this is how the succession planning is being done. He was training Akash Ambani from last 9-10 years, regularly, continuously, every meeting. Akash was actually shadowing him everywhere, wherever he was moving. So that rigorous training to become the leader one day was going on for 10 years. So this announcement was not sudden. He was given that training for last 10, 11 years. I think moving that. So this is how leaders should be brought and cultivated into leaders. Yeah.
Ma'am, like in foreign countries, if we see, like if we consider America, so they don't just rely on their own family to, that they'll take up the business. They, of course, America is known as a land of opportunities, so most of the, like, they they welcome everybody. So why not we can, because as you said, key succession development has not been done, so there is no leader to come up. So can't we, go on the track to invite foreign players, not players, but foreign individuals competent enough to take up our companies?
ऐसा हमारे अपने कम हो गए. ऐसा नहीं कि हमारे competency की कमी है. It's just that family business do not want anybody else from outside family to come and support. One, because they don't know how to safeguard themselves. हमारा वो safeguarding वाला system नहीं है, इसलिए again it's not to do with patriarchy system of how we have been our upbringing as. Like a patriarchy system में क्या होता है कि every family goes through that particular round where there are two brothers who separation करते हैं. Separation में आपका आधा wealth तो खत्म हो गया. Outside India you won't see those things. अब आधा पैसा तो यहाँ आपका दो पार्ट में डिवाइड हो गया. सो मतलब आपका जो एक नाम इमेजिन द रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री कुड हैव बीन मच मोर बिगर अगर दोनों भाई एक साथ होते, दोनों का सारा पूरा बिजनेस एक साथ होता. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली दे सेपरेटेड एंड दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंड. If Anil Ambani would have been trained properly, then he would have taken the space today. Akash के पास नहीं जाता, अनिल अंबानी के पास जाता, because he was the second senior most, right, in the family. So this is how things has to be done. अब इंडिया में हमारा फैमिली बिजनेस में बचपन से ऐसा सिखाया जाता है कि तुम दोनों भाइयों का ही. बहनों का तो चलो नाम ही नहीं आता था पहले. नाउ हिंदू लॉ के अकॉर्डिंग अब बहन को भी मिलने लग गया है सकता है प्रॉपर्टी में हिस्सा. स्टिल दे कैन नॉट बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ द फैमिली बिजनेस unless the parents want. So such a huge. Now HCL में जो है HCL के जो ओनर है उनकी बेटी विनीता, she is handling the entire HCL because he gave that legacy to her in her hands, right? Because she was more capable. उनका खैर चलो बेटा ही नहीं है, but she was more capable and hence he handed over this entire thing. So ऐसे बहुत सारे businesses हैं जहाँ पर they are opening up to this idea that women can also take that space, not just the men. But अभी बाहर वाले को अंदर इंक्लूड करने में it's still huge journey that these people have, especially the family run business. Old ones, उनका डर ही यही रहता है कि बाहर से कोई बंदा उनका shares नहीं. That entire property will get diversified.
Yes, ma'am. And but for the Tata company, it is it is an opportunity because his family is not there, so it's an opportunity to call in if India is like
I don't know
wanting to
what he
become.
will do. He's not sharing that clearly. Right now, it has not come out at all. There is a story of his personal secretary who's there, is a young boy. The only one who is in top right now. Like, he's so young, but he's showing, Tata is showing so much of trust in him. I don't know if he can actually adopt this guy. Yeah, these stories actually tell you different things about leaders. कि क्या उनके failures भी हैं और क्या successful हैं. Okay, coming to the next point of a diversity focus program. So it's very important कि हमारे जो retention और development programs and workshops हो should purely focus on how to bring more diversity and inclusion in workplaces. We should be showing it through sensitivity training, उस तरह की case studies share करके. Like I'm going to share a case study today with you, which you are going to solve. You are going to tell me the solution. कल की presentations के बाद. And third है create employee resource networking groups. So एम्प्लॉय रिसोर्स नेटवर्किंग ग्रुप्स क्या होते हैं कि एम्प्लॉइज के आपस में हमने नेटवर्क ग्रुप्स बना दिए जहां दे कैन टॉक टू ईच अदर एंड दे कैन फाइंड अ सॉल्यूशन. There is some bias creeping in, there is something that is going wrong, so they can come together themselves with an employee and then they can give the resolution. So such groups helps handle smaller things at different stages. अब अगर 20,000 लोगों की कंपनी है, so one large program or two large programs is not going to solve the problem. So what they have to do is geographically also जहाँ जहाँ कंपनी के branches है या groups है organization है और हर लेवल पर छोटे छोटे ग्रुप्स बना के then they start teaching, training, development. Then last is track promotion rates of diverse groups. Very importantly to see कि आपने सिर्फ hire नहीं किया है, you are giving them promotion and appraisals and everything also on the right time and opportunity. तो उन सबका भी जो भी diverse group से आए हुए हैं, for every member you are opening up equal case. There are still no biases. जैसे hiring के टाइम पे आपने biases अवे किए during the performance appraisals and management, you are really removing those biases. These are few best practices done by different companies. So one is fair treatment to everyone, whosoever is there in the company. Equal access to opportunity, मतलब अगर promotion की, transfer की, अच्छे projects की, किसी भी तरीके की opportunity आई है, so everybody has equal access. They have to prove their point that they are worthy of it. It's kind of a succession planning for everyone. And teamwork and collaboration. So organizations can improve that thing by giving a lot of good teamwork and collaboration to the organization. Focus on innovation and creativity. For organization, this should be the highlight right now if they want to really grow to a larger extent कि आपकी कंपनी में कितने नए innovations हो रहे हैं, क्या नई creativity आ रही है, for problem solving to opening new products, getting new services done for the employees, for the customers, all these things should be spoken about. Next, organization flexibility, responsiveness and agility. Very important that organization में एक policy बना ली है, they should not get stuck to that policy all the time. They should be always flexible enough that जहाँ भी changes कोई नया आए, we will be the first one to adopt those changes and start. Responsiveness matlab if you are facing some problems, there are some feedbacks coming to you, you are not really inculcating or instilling all those practices of diversity and inclusion in the company, then you have to show that responsiveness that I've heard, your feedback has reached at the right place and this is the solution that we have taken. And agility is that moving very fast and getting adapted to different systems. Then last is conflict resolution process that are collaborative. Very importantly, because जब हम diverse group से लोगों को लेंगे तो conflicts आएंगे, that is for sure. Right? No matter how much sensitivity training you give, conflicts आते ही हैं organization में. Two different individuals from any background comes in, they will have conflicts. Right? जैसे हम सिर्फ एक ही घर में पैदा होते हैं, फिर भी हमारे siblings के साथ हमारा point of view can differ. Even हमारे parents के साथ हमारा point of view differ कर सकता है. So those conflicts will always happen between parent to child or between two children. Same thing will happen in organization. So for conflict resolution, it's very important that we are solving the problem with collaboration. That we are not telling कि आप दोनों ने बात ही नहीं करना है, आप दोनों को अलग टीम में कर दिया. That should never happen. एक ही टीम में रहोगे, एक ही साथ काम करना है. गोल है यहाँ तक पहुँचना. 10% की profitability लानी है, and that's all you have to do. Remove the problems. That has to be the entire year's work. More best practices, evidence of leadership's commitment to diversity, इसके हमने बात करी हुई है. Representation of diversity at all levels of the organization. You can do this tomorrow. The time is up. You can continue 2-3 slides tomorrow. So first is your presentations tomorrow. Be prepared for that अच्छे से. And know something, no excuses कि मैं यहाँ नहीं थी, मुझे नहीं था, anything. You have to give the presentations, means the presentation has to be. Vanshika ka it is a valid excuse. She said she will give it next week, so that's okay. But Vanshika, you go ahead and do it. Your part. Rest all will be done. Same dress codes. Properly put professional setup, good English. Try and talk, even if you want to use Hindi, that's perfectly okay with me. But it has to be very clear. So the language has to be very clear. What you want to say should convey. So see you tomorrow, 6 o'clock, and then we'll discuss diversity.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night.